Oh, hey, Internet. How are you? It's me. It's Forrest. It's Paul Forrest. It's the North End Premier League fan show. All things Premier League. Welcome. Welcome. Let's go.
This is the North End. This is the North End.
Guys, it's the Premier League. It's the North End. It's Brian Ireland, JP California. Here we go. Let's all throw darts.
Yeah, let's throw darts. But there's only one guy who deserves to throw darts, and that's James Maddison. Bukayo Saka gets a deflected goal and throws a dart. What is that? Come on, you weak ass motherfucker. Sorry, I swear.
Coming in hot, Brian Ireland.
Coming in hot.
Well, you can't go off stealing somebody's celly like that, and then he's got a point.
And then gets skinned as well.
Like literally gets scored on within 2 minutes.
Yeah, but he got skinned. Our first goal was Maddison just making Saka look like a
He was a good player, that James Maddison.
You know what I didn't like about that whole
Can't play for England,
it was enjoyable, like the whole situation between Maddison and Saka. It was pretty funny. What I didn't like about it was
in the England level, right? So.
It was maybe too good spirited.
It needs to be a little bit.
I was like, you guys are supposed to like
hate
each other.
But that's the problem, right? All these guys kind of love each other. They love playing for England. They love like hanging out and doing that whole shit.
The thing about that, guys, though, is that it's the thing that's supposed to make England better because previous England's generations and whatnot that they've always fought. They've always had these like against each other. Clubs they play for. So it's better for England, which I don't care about that much. I care when it's happening, but I don't really care. So, the club rivalry isn't as intense. So it's a bit missing, but still the banter's there, and Maddison's great at the banter. He's a laugh.
Yeah, he's so good.
The
only guy better is Jamie Vardy himself.
Vardy's
he's top level on.
He's levels, yeah, for sure.
He may be one of the all-time
best banter,
shithousery.
Did you guys see the goal he scored this weekend, and then he ran all the way across the field to the away fans to cup his ears?
Sitting on him all week.
That's awesome.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
I have a lot of time for that shit. I think it's hilarious.
I
love the banter. Again, Maddison's really good at that. And I don't know if you guys saw the interview with him post game, where they were totally. We saw Saka stole your celebration. He's like, yeah, he was probably doing that when I turned him and scored. He was too busy throwing his card. Like.
It was a good response, but again, it was just like it was said with love. Like,
I
love out.
I would have loved if it was like, oh yeah, really? Was he doing that when I skinned him? Like,
we wish there was more hatred, but
guys, I love those guys that like can do it without the love. You know, they do it for the banter and like the hard aggressive and the hate. They really do it for the hate.
It's not there in football anymore. These guys all grow up together.
Who's that old guy at Wolves? There's an old guy at Wolves or Wolverhampton.
Well, let's not play this game.
Troy Deeney was fucking great at it.
All right, Paul, get us on track.
Okay, JP California. Before we get too much on track, let's just talk about this. You can't just give yourself the label of soccer expert.
All right,
come on.
But I put soccer. That was
that's the thing.
I didn't put football. I put soccer.
Did say soccer, so it kind of counters. It kind of goes with
it, dude.
Either way,
Leathermen are always wrong, and so is anybody who says soccer expert.
I'm just watching the credibility. I want to
argue that. Like, I do want to argue that point real quick. Like, soccer should be a viable word because that's the culture ingrained from a young child. Like, that's what you are taught as a kid. It's called soccer.
You're physically causing Liam pain.
Yeah, yeah. You're also in a country that's the only country that calls it that. So
we're also the only country where we could actually probably do well at the World Game, and we just can't get it together. We fired our coach to hire him back.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Wow.
Like
you are capped like every nation is capped in that you only have so many gifted athletes, and you have so many other sports your gifted athletes go to.
I'd rather play
other than the free.
There's some good players coming. You know, that's an argument that I think is very valid. But I also think they're like soccer in the United States has grown a lot. There's a lot more talent coming through that is naturally gifted. They are coming from different locations around the world. We are getting better players who have like a father from America, but a mother from Germany, and they're good. But we can't find a system that works. We can't develop a federation.
No, I'm gonna fucking fall asleep if you keep talking about the U.S. soccer program.
It's pretty similar to Canada
talking about. What are you talking about?
Oh, Canada's worse, dude.
Me making fun of you being called a soccer expert is not a bridge into you talking about the U.S. soccer program.
Let's move on from it then, Paul.
Terrible.
It's fine.
Terrible.
How is everybody today?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Oh, I'm really.
You guys
good.
watch any of
I
the Caribou Cup?
I checked
Thank
the
God I
scores.
had to work.
I'm just laughing at Villa right now because Villa, the so-called
we're
best
so bad. Well,
team,
you made a lot of subs.
losing a hokey tournament that doesn't really exist, and now losing the Carabao
We
Cup.
played the same guys from that tournament, and again, the same guys shit the bed. The best part is Yuri Tielemans gave an interview the other day at the Belgium national team where he basically said, like, hey, I went to Villa to play, and they're not playing me, and I want to play. Like, the coaches said this, but I need to play. He's played 2 games, and he's played terrible both starts.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
yeah,
he's not going to work out. Maybe you can get your money back by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of today's game, and I will acknowledge that you guys did look like you were being weighted down by your jerseys.
Did you?
The complaints by the Aston Villa coaching staff and players that their jerseys are weighing them down. It looked real.
It's it looks like they are just completely been put into a pool, put on, and they've stuck to them.
It looked like they were running around with anchors on their body.
It's insane.
I love these new excuses. These are fantastic excuses.
I've never heard this one before. Our jerseys are too heavy.
It is real.
It's kind of fantastic, though. You gotta love it.
I mean, they do. I mean, you can see it. There's something wrong with those jerseys. So 100%, there's something wrong with those jerseys. But to have it be a publicly acknowledged thing that
find something to
it's being talked about out loud by the team.
So ridiculous.
JP, one highlight for you guys, and this is what I've said about Spurs going into the season, is the fact that they don't have a lot of competitions to plan. You now don't have a lot.
Yeah. We just eliminated the Carabao Cup.
Probably going to get knocked out of the Europa Wank League that isn't a real tournament. Because you've already lost the first game of that, you're out of the. You're going to be with Spurs.
The irony,
you finish top 6 because of it. So just
the irony is we have the best cup coach that you can really get, like one of the top ones, and we can't do well in a cup. Like,
but you're not in the Europa League. You're in the whatever.
It doesn't matter. Like,
not all cups are created equal, JP.
Apparently,
that's what they don't talk about when they compare cup success. Anyways, great week. Game 6 or week 6 of the Premier League. I actually have to shake my head. Like, we're already at week 6. That kind of blows my mind.
Yeah,
it's so fast.
Even past the international break, and we're already into.
I know. I think I got thrown off personally because I did a little bit of a the end of the summer weekends, and I went on a bit of a vacation, so I missed some time. But man, I'm still it's 6 weeks in. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This weekend I thought some really interesting games, some interesting results. We can go through them in any level of detail we want. I thought the Crystal Palace Fulham game was, despite the fact it was a 0-0 draw, an interesting kind of warm-up game. It seems like both teams are really struggling to score goals.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the system. Like, I think that's just going to be the story of these teams for the entire season.
Yeah.
Paul, can I just add to that a little bit and get you guys' thoughts on this? Is this a scenario where there's it's across the board, there's a lack of number 9s, like traditional 9s who score goals in Europe, in world football now? It's everybody's a false 9. There's this classic goal scorer that used to be so common. You'd have 2 or 3 of them on your team at a time, and they would all be fighting to get on. Is that what we're seeing here? Like, because you can go through a lot of the squads, and a lot of these teams can say they're missing that 9, they're missing that goal scorer. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's something we noticed.
I want to jump in. I don't think it's the 9. I just don't think teams have goal scorers. Like Crystal Palace had Zaha.
The 9 is the goal scorer.
But Zaha was never really the 9, right? He was like a 7 or 11. He was a wide forward, but he still got 12 goals a season.
But a 9 gets 20, JP.
But there is no 20 goal scorer outside of the top.
And that's the point.
No, there's never been that though.
Well, there has. I mean, Harry Kane is sort of the end of that line in a sense, where that used to be a regular.
I know what you're saying, but if I look at these two teams, I go Crystal Palace have Edouard, who had started the season really strong. He's injured. I don't think he was available for this game or got injured during this game. But as a 9, a big body powerhouse 9, he had kind of found his way into the Premier League. He looked like he was getting comfortable. Like, he had scored a couple of goals, I think, to start the season. So I think not having him, all of a sudden, you're looking at a Crystal Palace team that don't have Zaha anymore, that were really reliant on Eze, who's more of a creator. Yeah. So that's kind of their story. And then obviously Fulham, We all know what happened
Mitrovic.
with that. Mitrovic is a fucking powerhouse.
This is
nine.
like you're
He
kind of
went
making.
He only scored 12 goals, right?
Hang on,
Like, he
hang on,
wasn't
guys.
that
You're
much.
making my point here for me because those are two teams that only have a single 9, and if the 9 gets injured, they got no goals, and so there's a lot. It used to be even just 5-6 seasons ago, you'd have 2 or 3 9s that could come in and score goals, and you could replace.
Oh yeah, no, we're done like that.
And that's what I'm saying. So that's this isn't just a Fulham Palace scenario. Obviously, Chelsea's a massive example in that. And when Villa lose Ollie Watkins, they struggle to score goals as well. I think if Spurs lose Sonny right now, we're fucked. Richarlison's 9 is not a great 9. So you know it's gone so minuscule that if you lose that 9, you kind of screwed. You lose a lot of goals in your team.
It seems like a lot of teams are in a transition year, right? Crystal Palace lost Zaha and some players. Fulham lost quite a few players, right? If you look through all these squads, like Saudi Arabia picked up a lot of players throughout the league. A lot of players moved on. It just seems like the whole league as a whole is kind of going through a little bit of an evolution, a little bit of transition.
I think that's true, but I also think just world football generally, the number 9 is a key focal point. Football is diminished.
It's why a kid who played 20 games in Italy costs Man United 75 million.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so few 9s.
Exactly.
And they get injured so quickly.
That's why Evan Ferguson, who's not exactly lighting the world on fire, who is like not lighting the world on fire.
Paul, do you want to get into
hyped on promise?
The next game?
Let's move on.
So Luton won, Wolves won. Brian and I had some disagreements about this. I will say Twitter and some ex-officials agree with me. Handball was awarded for Luton to tie the game. Wolves extremely hard done by the call. It's not the first nor the last handball that was called this weekend where I'm like, what is fucking happening now? But for me, it was probably the most obvious of an unfair interpretation of the rule. A deflection carries the ball up into an arm that is not between. It's not deflecting across. The ball's like way up here.
Yeah, I argue with that.
I didn't like it.
I'd have to see it again because I don't remember that. If I did, you're probably right because it sounds a lot like a lot of other handballs that shouldn't have been handballs. If I argued it,
for me, the biggest part of this was it was a deflection that carried the ball up, so that's ball to hand, which doesn't seem to be called anymore.
As soon as the deflection happens, there should never be a handball. But that goes for the North London Derby,
right? Well. And then I'm increasingly annoyed by what they call natural position because that's not really what they mean. If a guy sticks out his left leg and doesn't want to fall down, you raise your arm for counterbalance.
Right.
It's a natural position.
Referees who've never played the game, I think that you don't understand being in that scenario, what your body's going to have to do to function. And if that's the case, then you miss the point of
there was one last year where Luka Dean jumped. His hands were up because he had jumped. The ball was going over his head clearly. The guy misheads it. It went back into the back of Luka Dean's hand.
What's he supposed to do?
Like, what is he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, come on. And they had to VAR it, and they still gave the PK. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, there needs to be something better on that.
Yeah,
it has to be better.
We could get into the VAR again. I just think the calling of these things again is inconsistent, and the actual rule isn't set in stone that everybody understands it or every ref understands it. So it gets called the same way each time because it should be that simple. That here's the rule, here's why it happened, and they're not doing that.
I'm so close.
It's very strange.
So close to just saying, I fucking hate VAR. I'm not there yet, but I'm like, I'm so close to going. I think the thing that VAR does is hurting my experience of watching so much that it's not worth it.
I think how VAR is being used in the Premier League is so stupid. It's so misguided when it comes to what we see in other sport, what we see in rugby in particular is probably the best example if you're going to talk about England and how they manage it. Every single decision is explained. The microphones are on the official and the people who are explaining the decision and why it was decided. They might get it wrong still, but at least you've been told what's going on. Whereas in Premier League football, you're watching this decision being made. You're watching them make the mistake, and you're watching the look on their face and how terrified they are if they get it wrong. I'm going to be specific and get this right because I know what this is called supposed to be.
Yeah.
They're so indecisive and so unknowing of their own job, and that they rely on this other video service with a bunch of their buddies who they want to rely on, who are also just as afraid of making the wrong decision.
And their buddies also don't want to undermine their friend, and that's been said. Like we've had insight recently with interviews of like, yeah, but I didn't want to like make him feel bad.
He had a really rough game, so we shouldn't like take him back.
You're a professional. Your buddy is not. Yeah, it doesn't come.
I do think there's been a lot of offsides calls or non-offsides calls that they have to like go back and review it, and a lot of times when the ref doesn't have to go to the monitor because they just call it. I think that's way better. Like take some of those calls.
Not interpretive. Offside is a line that tells you if it is or if it isn't. It's the delay of looking at footage at extreme slow motion.
Like goal line technology, right? Like goal line there, and you can look at it and you can measure it. I mean, clearly with offside, it needs to happen faster, and they're dicking around.
Take out VAR, but leave the offsides like goal line and be done with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not there yet. Again, I think it's doing more good than bad. But what I hate is
I'm there. Piss off.
I hate the Angels hair call for offside.
Hate it.
It just doesn't feel like it's in the spirit of the game where we're trying to encourage goals.
Yeah.
And I do hate, and I've had this happen like 4 times to me already this season. I hate that as fans, you can't fucking let loose and scream for a goal because you know it's going to get reviewed and either it's going to get awarded or not, but you're going to have to fucking hold your breath.
Yeah.
So all that screaming and stuff that you just did was maybe a false dawn, and that's just a shitty fucking experience as a viewer.
Because that's the point of football. The reason why football is so good, and especially when you talk about it in JP, you'll understand this as being an American, but North American in general. When you look at North American sport, they always complain about the amount of goals that are scored, and it's not like, oh wow, it was like 1-0 or it was 2-0. But if you understand football appropriately and recognize the value of a goal, and when it does happen. Yeah. It is rare, but it's so rare because it takes so much quality to get there. When you get there and it's done so well, that celebration has to be fully like just like realized. Like I'm going to celebrate the highest level.
Like I'm not afraid to say it. Like I lost my mind.
You take away
Johnny Evans scored against Burnley. First time Johnny Evans scored for Man United in fucking years.
And you lost
a decade. Academy guy. I'm like,
yeah.
And then it gets called.
If that's taken away, and when it's taken away, because it's happened to all of us, you're just going, "Oh my god, why?"
It was taken away.
And if it's taken, if it's taken away and it's clearly offside, fair. If it's not clear, and that's supposed to be the whole point with clear and obvious, then why are they looking at VAR? Like the VAR should say clear and obviously, the call on the pitch was close enough to what we just ignore it. Then let it stand.
Yeah.
Leave it.
I also strongly feel like I don't know. Review it in real time. Slow motion does not help anybody with anything.
I agree.
Review it in real time. Give them a chance to see it again in real time.
Yeah.
Don't add this.
And
everything looks worse in slow motion. Everything.
Once, maybe twice, like have a limitation. You only get to see it from this angle and from this angle. Then you make a decision. Did you make a mistake or not? One way or the other. It takes about 30 seconds.
Totally.
Move on. You know,
totally. Like in hockey, going in at slow motion to see if the puck crossed the line, I get because it might be a goal or a non-goal. If you're checking to see if it should have been a red card or not red card, and you're slow motioning it, the fact that you need slow motion to determine if it's a red card or not, just don't give it as a red card.
You have to do slow motion.
I don't know if I agree with that because that did help get the red card this weekend.
Yeah, and I didn't agree with the red card that you got. I think
that's fine.
Honestly,
I don't agree.
That's another one of those calls where slow motion fucked the
JP. Whether they got it right or wrong, would you not accept it easier if they didn't dick around?
I'm not saying it's not easier. I'm 100% saying it is 100% easier if they took that away.
Even if they get it wrong, because referees get it wrong. You know that. We know that. We've all played the game. Referees will get it wrong, but if they get it wrong but they were genuine about it and they didn't dick around and watch a replay 30 times, they just got this is their decision, boom, and they get it wrong, and then maybe it's a simple, easy conversation to have post game to say the ref. It's similar to just regular when referees got calls wrong. Not they had 30 minutes to look at it. It's over and over.
This is also supposed to prevent the Monday arguments about whether it was or was not a something. And we're still having those Monday arguments. We're just losing the excitement of the game.
It's Wednesday. It's midweek, and we're still having the argument.
On to Man City.
Red card for Man City, but they still hold on. 10-man Man City hold on to beat Nottingham Forest, who still looked, I thought, pretty good once they got like the advantage in numbers. I thought Nottingham looked pretty good. This could have easily been a 6-0 game because
they were getting spanked early on for sure.
Man City, the best team in the world.
It's probably telling that the only reason why it ended 2-0 is because I think a red card impacted.
And let's just quickly say to that, Paul, before you move on. Rodri was the red card. Rodri is a very important player for Man City. Going to miss the next game, next 3 games.
Next 2 games. 3.
Is it 2 or 3? Either way,
because there's a cup game, he only misses 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Friends, but 1 cup game. So, but arguably going to miss the Arsenal game as well. So interesting that's the case.
But they've already stacked that position. Like they're going to be fine.
I'm not saying that it's going to make it.
Although
they start Calvin Phillips, and
I think I think the suspension will affect his availability against Arsenal. I think that the Arsenal midfield.
Rice is injured.
No, he's back. Awesome. He's back. Reports are that he's back.
Wow, that was quick.
My understanding, it's he's not 100%, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
and again, we're talking 2 weeks down the road, so
true. There's some time.
What I'm saying is potentially it may be a big deal that he's not available, just because that's an opponent that.
But let's be honest,
it might be that thing.
Arsenal aren't that good anyway. So
no, Everton, by the way,
get their first win. Hey,
I mean, not their only
big one against Brentford.
Not their only, but their first one.
I was surprised by this result. I thought Brentford is probably the worst game I've seen Brentford play in a long time.
They always have 3 or 4 bad games.
They have one, Brentford. I don't know. This one was like, wow, at home, like you're this shit against a really poor Everton side. To be fair to Everton, though, this is the best game I've seen them play in a long time. Like going forward, chances created, control of the ball, regaining possession in the middle of the pitch and not allowing Brentford to build up anything. It's the best I've seen Everton play and under Sean Dyche. Not defensive, which was different completely.
I think it's just that realization. Like, we've taken it for granted that Everton are shit, and then it's like, well, they're not really shit. They just were shit. And there was contributing factors like Dominic Calvert-Lewin being injured all of last season. He's a good player when he's available.
He started this game, but ended up coming on and getting a goal. And
has he played more than 5 games in a row in 2 years?
It's been a while. Yeah,
who knows? But this early in the season, if he's available for 5 of the first 7 games, let's say, Everton are going to look a lot better because they have an actual striker. Without him, they don't. And the striker is important.
Yeah.
I will point out one player in particular because I called him out as a breakout star and because I just really like him. James Gardner is a guy I think if you're not watching what he does, I encourage anybody who watches Everton to pay attention to this young guy because he's one of these guys that he plays everywhere. I think he started as a right back or something this game, but he comes infield and he just gives them an extra dimension, like this inverted position that he's just kind of made for. But I really like him. So pay attention to that guy. But otherwise, I think Brentford are going to be,
very fine.
A little bit in trouble until Ivan Toney comes back. And then I think they're going to be fine.
If Ivan Toney comes back to them, because I mean, there's a lot of talk about
he comes back to them.
That
but also, if they get 80 million for Ivan Toney in January, and that's a rumor of how much it would cost.
If they get it early, they can.
Here's the thing: Brentford still has 3 draws. They're going to get a team that draws a lot. They get a win here. They get a few losses. I think it's going to be okay.
15th,
yeah, they're going to be that 14th, 15th place team. I don't know if danger is the word. They're just going to be a team that's a bogey team. It's going to be whatever.
Yeah, they're hard to play against at home generally, and this is an odd result for Everton to go to Brentford and score 3 against a pretty seemingly uninterested Brentford side. Again, which is not what we expect from them generally. They're usually pretty Spurs played them at the beginning of the season, and it was not an easy game. And they were really intense, and they played at a high pace and very focused. So I was surprised by this, but Everton did that to them. I think maybe they got a little bit surprised.
Sean Dyche getting them running.
Exactly. Oh, that's exactly
speaking of running, Burnley hosts Man United. Man United desperate for some kind of result on the road. Walking into this game with 12 injuries. I'm the resident Man United.
Caveat from Paul.
Caveat. Burnley played what I had thought their style of play was meant to be. They were very possession heavy. An interesting stat for you guys, if you're not aware, the player that had the third most touches of the ball in this game was their keeper.
So it tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Their style of play is really like, well, just between the two center backs who both their center backs had the number 1 and number 2 most touches of the ball. Their keeper had the third most.
Yeah, they're going to try to play it from the back, but they don't have the quality to get through teams that are good enough to manage it, essentially.
Yeah, it seemed like they weren't even trying to play it. Like it was a distinction. It was like it was less playing it from the back. It was more like give the ball back to the defense.
Well,
let them hold on to it.
Again, because they couldn't find a way through. So they're like, go back because we trust that they can touch the ball.
As opposed to like from a goal kick trying to play the ball up from the back. This is just more like you're very conservative, possession-based.
They don't want to give the ball away by kicking it wildly, but they're not really getting out of anything out of keeping the ball because they can't.
But they had patterns of play. They passed really well. It's hard to tell because, again, they're against the Man United side who are not exactly a Man United side because it's very injury-prone. It's a very weird time right now. But I thought they looked okay.
I have to ask you. I have to chime in here because it's injuries and there's all these other things. Is that enough for you? Are you confident with the management? Not just obviously the upper management is a different story, but are you confident with Ten Hag and what he's doing in patterns of play? I think just like obviously injuries are a thing. I'm not discounting that. I think a lot of the teams are going through that. Chelsea, there's a few others that kind of are going through that. But I just feel like there's something from a like collective scenario with Man United that doesn't feel right. Like it doesn't feel like they're all kind of on the same page. This connection between.
I don't know how anybody can have a possession-based approach to the way they want a team to play, and have that played out on the field when you don't have possession players.
Is Ten Hag a possession play coach? Because I feel like he's more counterattacking.
No, that's. It's kind of a combination of the two.
He's a possession.
But you can't have a Scott McTominay play in the midfield. And like, it's just simple things. Like midfield is incredibly important for the execution of any style of play.
I'm not taking the piss here, Paul. I'm just curious.
I know. I'm just telling you. Yeah. Our injuries have been so, and the way we've been building this project, like the midfield will be like the last thing that actually gets
Amrabat's going to save you guys, probably. Right?
Amrabat.
Isn't that a stretch?
People will say this as a joke, but like if you replace Scott McTominay, who can't pass for shit, with Amrabat, who is statistically one of the best passers in Europe last year and the year before.
I really think it's going to be a difference. I really do.
He's already played for United in the cup game. It's like night and day.
I don't want to
He had more passes in the first half in his first game than Scott McTominay has had in the last 3 games in the entirety of games.
Yeah. There's
and that's who he's coming in for. He's coming in to replace Scott McTominay.
And what that does is
Casemiro.
It takes the weight off of Casemiro and what he's expected to do. Because Casemiro, we know, like as quality as he is older, so he's a bit slower. Last season,
he's just never been a guy who like could be the metronome.
He had more people around him to do things, though, right? So that he could do his job. Whereas, I think with this season, you haven't had that. Yeah. I think Amrabat makes I think United were pipped to sort of finish 4th, 5th, 6th kind of scenario. I think because of the way you've started the season without the right players in there and some injuries, that might finish about 6th, 7th, 8th, depending on what happens. But I do think Amrabat, if fit in that midfield, it has cohesion because it does take some time for everybody to understand each other. He will make a massive difference. I don't typically put a lot on one player, but
did you just say we're going to finish 6th, 7th, 8th?
I think there's potential for it. I think if you don't stay fit, there's potential for it. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I say that? You're 14th, 13th, 14th right now. I'm not saying you can't counter that with the injuries and
you can get up there, but you could also just as easily get in 3rd or 4th as you could end up in 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I don't think it's a given that you're necessarily going to get past the crisis you're in.
Sure.
Because the crisis is heavy. I don't think that means the quality is
if you want me to dimensionalize where we are in terms of where we are at with this crisis,
when you're not playing with
we are now getting over the hump of the crisis. Where they are at right now in terms of this crisis,
I don't know about that. I think over the hump means you win a few games in a row against difficult teams.
No. Sorry. Okay. When you are losing games because you have massive injuries, the crisis is the injuries, not the lost games. That's
But
how that works.
I'm
Like,
going to argue.
that has to be how everybody has to consider these
I'm going to
things.
push back against that a little bit for a second, if you mind, and then you can respond to it. I
Sure.
don't think that's always the case. I think some of the decisions being made by Ten Hag and the players you're putting out there with what you have been mistakes, and a lot of that he'll still do the same thing despite getting the players back. So you have to
Like what? So you'd have to be specific with me because
So,
now this is generalities.
Just talking about how you're supposedly controlling the ball. I don't see a team that is a ball controlling team.
No. Okay, hang on. Let's wait.
Wins the ball back.
This supposedly controlling the ball thing.
You're talking about
I'm
possession.
not saying that they've been trying to control the supposedly controlling the ball is not what's happened. We cannot control the ball because we haven't had a midfield.
Right.
So the injuries when we get over the hump, when we actually have the players that are available to be midfield players, like an actual midfield.
But this is my point, Paul. I agree with you that that's the case. I don't think that happens like next game or the game after. I think that in order for that process to take place, which I would assume you would agree with, it's 4 or 5 games, not next week.
No,
that
honestly, it's going to be pretty immediate. You're going to be surprised by how immediate.
You know, I'm looking forward to seeing that because
that's how bad it looks when you have Scott McTominay in the midfield.
I agree because I've watched it, but I don't think one player coming in one game changes it. I do think it does change it eventually. So sure. I think over time, yes,
it is
in the conversation.
It is it's not again. It is not going to be just one player coming back. Raphael Varane will be back. Our starting defensive pair will be back. We will have Amrabat, who really impressed on his debut. Mason Mount is back. So there's 4 or 5 guys who are already just back now.
Yeah,
right.
And again, I agree that eventually.
And then there's this other thing that happened along the way, which kind of buries itself.
KP, what do you think?
The distraction of Sancho, that gets kind of pushed back. The distraction of Anthony, that gets pushed back because there's time and distance from when that stuff broke. So what just happened, the crisis that we just went through, was a lot of injuries and a lot of guys not becoming available, and probably a lot of like confusion amongst the actual squad of like what the fuck is happening here.
Guys, I'm going to quickly excuse myself. I want you guys to talk about the rest of this. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I just have to use the facility.
He's got to go poop.
He drank a beer, and the beer is coming out.
You know, so an interesting factoid for this before we move on. Hannibal Medri.
Yeah.
So tell me more about my team. You guys can't even tell me.
No, I don't think it's
Hannibal
about
Medri.
Your team. It's more about
Hannibal Medri made a debut this game. Interesting stat. He ran the most of any Man United player for 5 years.
Wasn't that the guy you guys were like, he's a youth player, he's going to take some time, but you were saying, you know what, I think this guy is going to be the guy?
No. He's a youth player. He's going to take some time. I never said I thought he was going to be the guy.
But you try to play, and I'm not trying to overextend this, right? I'm not trying to say he is the guy. Let me change that. You were trying to build him up as like, I don't think this kid's too far off from being a regular starter and contributing quite a bit to Man United.
That was probably Mainu and not Hannibal.
Oh, okay. That's what it was.
The surprise to all Man United fans is not that he's playing, it's not that he's good. We knew this about him. He was going to be that guy. We were not expecting him to have the engine to run more in a game than any of our players for 5 years against Burnley. Everybody was taken aback by that stat because now all of a sudden it's holy shit. Like
he has to play.
Like, fuck, that's pretty impressive. Like,
yeah,
could he beat Bruno occasionally to a game because he played as a 10? The weird thing for this, JP, just so you know, the other thing with all this Man United shit right now, a lot of people are taking what we did at Crystal Palace in the Cup, and a lot of people are taking what we did at Burnley, and they're trying to extract more from it than it is. Like people talk about maybe Rashford shouldn't play anymore, maybe Bruno shouldn't play anymore.
They overthink it,
right? And it's not because Rashford didn't play in the Cup. It's because we had a midfield. It's really as simple as like, well, this is what a soccer team can do when they have a midfield. It's not a complicated game.
I do want to hit back that you were like, I think it's gonna be pretty immediate. I think we're over the hump. I feel like this idea that there's like a hump or whatever in EPL soccer is just kind of I want to say bullshit. I just want to say bullshit because there's always going to be injuries, and there's always going to be guys that come in and out of form. Yes, it could look good. The hump could be coming to the end. We could, in theory, be really good for the next few games, but there's always going to be something coming up. There's always going to be like Rashford could get injured.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
Score.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
Sure.
Because humps are not just the amount of injuries you have, but yeah, having slews of injuries resolve themselves so that you have a fit squad is definitely something that helps you get over a quote unquote hump or through a quote unquote crisis.
Right.
But then there's also your fixture list. When you're about to face off against 3 teams in a row who are really good and they're all road games, and then the next 5 games after that are all home games against weaker opponents, you can look at it and go, I just need to get over this hump on the road.
How the fuck do you guys get 5 away and then 5
I'm making
home?
it up, JP. I'm just saying.
I was like, Jesus.
There are humps during the course of a season you can look at, and it's not like a one hump for the entire season.
Right.
It's just like the immediate hump you're in is we had Spurs on the road, Arsenal on the road, and we had 12 injuries. Once we get past this, we're looking at Crystal Palace and like,
fair enough.
I want to bring
saying, you know what, the injury issue, like everyone gets injuries, and some
JP,
like come out of nowhere. Like they
JP,
really
there's extreme injury issues, and that they can eventually affect a squad to a certain level. And I want to bring Liverpool into this example from last season, right? So Liverpool are a lot like United United a lot like Liverpool were last season, in that they started the season with a ton of injuries, difficult games against difficult opponents, not being able to play the team that they wanted to play, trying to get their shape the way they wanted to get it, but just things aren't working. Liverpool's first half of the season last season was terrible. They had, I think, 12, 13 injuries of like key players. That was brutal. And we were all kind of going, Liverpool falling off, Klopp doesn't blah, 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 blah. You get into January, and you go from January to the end of the season. They had the second best record in the league next to Man City. They got a fit squad, and they played the football they wanted to play, and they were badass. It's the reason why this season, I think, still are a better competitor to Man City. I think they're going to be incredibly difficult to beat, and they're going to get a ton of points. I think I'm not going to say that United are the same as that, but if we're going to compare injuries and how they can affect a squad at a level where they get so many of them that you just can't play your football anymore.
I think we can use last year's Liverpool example as there are humps.
It's a good example, though, right? Like
there are things the amount you can get over.
The overall, I
think United have about 12 injuries.
You're totally right that you'll always have to manage injuries. That's not something that just resolves.
When it gets to a certain level,
away.
it's difficult.
But like even going from 12 injuries to 3 injuries, that's
massive.
You're over a hump.
Massive. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, guys, I can't say it enough. I don't know if anybody gets it. 12 injuries.
Yeah, to a normal
McTominay was starting in the midfield.
Not like Chelsea. Chelsea have 50 guys. That's bullshit that they can't put out a decent 11.
That's a whole other conversation, JP.
Yeah, totally. Brian, you got to be happy though. You go to Arsenal, and I think that was a really entertaining game.
Yeah, I would agree. I was entertained and enjoyed it, so it was surprising.
How did you feel about the penalty?
You know what? If it was on me, I would say it's a penalty. So I don't feel aggrieved of the call, like just in a live scenario, like the way it happened. If it happened to Spurs the other way around, I've been like, yeah, it's 100% a penalty. But when you look at the buildup to the scenario, when it comes to now, there's an argument that Ben White might have handled it. I think it went off his chest, or it's like sort of that moment where like you can't really tell, but. James Maddison was fouled before any of it happened, like fouled, obviously fouled in the box. It was shoved down by the player who ended up scoring. So that for me was a bit like, what? I don't understand why that wasn't looked at. If it was just isolated, if you're just looking at also to be fair, it was a deflection, but it was such a slight deflection that it probably still would have hit him in the hand. He goes to kick it. It gets off a foot of another player and goes in his arm. His arm's up in the air like this. If it happened to me or the other way around, I would be pissed off. It wasn't called a pen. So I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with all the bits and pieces around it. But that wasn't. I don't think that was the biggest mistake the ref made. I think it could have gone out of that game with that mistake had the other key moments that weren't clearly dealt with the way a referee should deal with. And I'm talking about Nketiah's clear red card on Vicario.
Yeah, that was pretty obvious. That was
ridiculous that was not a red. I don't know when is a red? That's the epitome of red. But it didn't affect the game. It did, but it didn't. I think The 2-2.
Do you think at the end of the day, 2-2 is a fair result?
It's fair-ish. I think they would be aggrieved in certain scenarios. There's moments where Jesus should have scored on a sitter that James Madison gave away in our own box.
Yeah.
There's a mad save that Rhea made off of Johnson that he dove across the box, got his hand on it. Could have been a goal. Both first half. It was an even game across the board, except that Spurs went there and got dominated possession against Arsenal for the first time probably in the last 30 years, where we had possessions, better possession stats, better creation. The XG was a little lower from our perspective, but penalties come into play on that, so I think it's pretty even. It's the best Spurs have gone away to in a London derby to Arsenal in 30 years.
Yeah.
Played our football
against an Arsenal supposedly
we're the better team,
pushing for a title.
It was even. I think it was even, and I think I walk out of it. The only thing I was annoyed by was how Arsenal fans and just pundits generally thought that we were going to get slaughtered. I was like, I don't know if you've watched Spurs play, if you think that's the case. If you think we're going to get slaughtered or we're not going to play the way we're going to play, you haven't really watched any of how we play, because we've been brave as fuck in really dodgy situations. And Paul, you watched us against United early on in the second game. You guys, had you scored a couple in that first half, you deserved to win it. But we stayed playing our game.
If we had been awarded the handball penalty that was awarded against you guys,
there's a few things in there that I'm like, yeah, you're right.
That was as soon as that got awarded. As soon as Arsenal, as soon as that was like, oh, penalty, here you go. I was just like, fuck, this
really,
is Twitter
I agree,
blow up.
Paul, and that's 100%. If that one's a penalty, the other one should have been, and we'll agree on that. I don't have an issue with that. I just think Spurs were the underdogs, so thought of as being going to get slaughtered against this Arsenal team. No, don't get me wrong. Arsenal are a good side, but they played one game a week last season. They fucking shit the bed when it came to the end of the season to compete. They were terrible, and they've continued that form through this season. They've gotten good results, but they haven't played good football necessarily. It's been okay. There've been moments. The Champions League game they played well,
let's poll it right now, because I
don't think they're that good.
I am mindful. Yes, there's a storyline here for Tottenham. I think we can all agree, surprise and delight for how Tottenham is playing this year. We'll continue to talk about that probably over the course of the season. But we went into this season hoping that Arsenal could be a team that could at least push Man City and make it an interesting season. Do we feel? Well, like I'm going to ask. I'm like, do we think it's going to be a Arsenal Man City race?
No. Liverpool Man City for me, for sure. Not even a question.
I'm not going to say like they're gone, but they're just not as strong. They're not as well in cohesion as they were last year. I felt like last year everything clicked. Everybody was on the same page. I feel like the pieces they added, while they're not bad pieces, they just upset the cohesion of the play.
Arteta is tinkering like Pep does, but he's not good enough and doesn't have the squad to do it.
He doesn't have players to beat it.
I assume we're talking about Kai Havertz, really.
He's not.
Well, I would even say Declan Rice has been a great addition, but even with besides that, like he's no.
Hang on, let's not compare Tottenham signings to Arsenal signings. Let's focus here on
here's the difference. Here's the difference, Brian.
Why did you talk about it?
Also, he might be an Yves Bissouma. He might suck this year and then all of a sudden be good next year.
He could destroy it. But like Jacques had been there for 5 or 6 years. He knew all the guys there. He had been there well at some time. Rice has only been there 6 games, right? So like Rice isn't quite on the same.
Bissouma's only played
on the same
Spurs.
Why are we talking about Bissouma?
Stop talking about
6 games. Well, we're talking about.
Hold on, I got a question for you. In a minute. Hold. I just don't think Arsenal is well oiled yet. They might finish the season really strong, but as of right now, they are not starting the way they ended last season. Well, maybe they are starting.
They are starting it the way they ended. That's my point.
They're not quite there. But let's be honest, top teams also don't usually start the seasons great. They're great from about November on. They're great from December on. They lose one game for the back half of the season. So like I'm not going to write them off completely. Like they're going to not just do well, but they definitely aren't showing well so far.
Bobby, it's Man United, buddy.
Here's my question for Brian.
Go shoot.
Brennan Johnson, who I really enjoy.
Yeah.
How is he doing?
Well, I mean, he came in at the end of the window. He's came on as a sub and scored a goal that was rendered offside, had an effect on that game, and started one game. I think there's not enough to talk about.
JP, you're taking us all over the place here, man. Fucking stay on topic here.
There's not a lot to talk about there.
I thought I finished my Arsenal setup.
Yeah, you did. Great job. And also, your answer is like you just stuck with like just now. I'm asking on this season, are they pretenders to challenge, or do you think they stand a chance of challenging?
Pretenders.
And what is holding them back? Because time and a reshuffle of people is like kind of a lame response.
I will put two things into this conversation.
The first thing isn't good enough yet.
The first thing is they don't have a 9 to finish to score goals properly. That's pretty obvious. Like
because they went off and bought Kai Havertz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No brainer. We had this conversation when we did our episode of predicting the failures of the season. He's going to be one of them. It's pretty clear that's the case. Secondly, Arteta is trying to do too much and not sticking to what worked. And now that eventually could help him in the long run, but whether he's given the long run in leeway to make these types of decisions and they finish third, fourth without any trophies. I don't know what the ambition of the club is supposed to be, but I think those are the two things. They need a finisher. Like Nketiah is not the guy that's going to get them to win the league.
It's got to be Gabriel Jesus
over Haaland. But he's not good enough. Jesus is not better than Son, as an example. Son is a better finisher and a 9, even though he's not a 9, than Jesus is. Finisher. Like, let's just talk about goals scored in that position. He's just not. So as much as Jesus is a brilliant player, don't get me wrong, I think he's fantastic. I think they need a player, though, in that like 9 position that's just going to put balls in the net. And then Nketiah, who they're currently relying on, isn't good enough for me to do.
Well, Nketiah is only being relied on because Gabriel Jesus is only now coming back. I think he's a sidebar to the story. I think Gabriel Jesus
is just not a good.
I just don't think Jesus at Man City wasn't a 9 that they trusted. They went on to get other players to play it.
Right, so. But he played phenomenally well for Arsenal last year when he was available.
How many goals did he score?
He had like 9, I think, but he was injured quite a bit last season.
So again, do you rely on
and I will also point out Arsenal's style of play isn't reliant on the 9 to score goals. They do have other functions
they spread it
to
out.
allow Saka, who's injured. So my general sense of them is I do think it's a shortfall at the 9. They might have been okay if Jesus was able to stay healthy.
11 goals.
But he missed a lot of games last year. And
he did only get 26 in.
Whatever's happening this season, his return from injury, they're slowly allowing him to come in. They're slowly allowing him to be the guy. Gabriel Jesus is not a natural finisher. What he does as a 9 is also facilitate a Saka or a Martinelli. So he's not going to be the guy who scores you 20 goals. Probably his best season, even if he was fit the entire season, he's not going to get you that.
I agree with that, Paul. I think
but how they looked last year.
Yeah, I agree.
It just seems like they're not ticking over right now, and it might even be that the league has found them out.
I think that's partially true, Paul. But I think also there's an expectation of Havertz doing something. So if you look at how they started that game against Spurs, they started with a front 3 of Saka on the right, Nketiah in the middle, and Jesus on the left. That from a balance perspective, when you look at like what they bring to the table, isn't balanced when you throw Jesus in there. So at halftime, because of injuries or because of reasons that Arteta thought were necessary, he brings in Havertz to replace what's his name, the Spanish fella. Anyway, he brings in him to replace, and they don't have balance in the midfield. In the front 3 there. They've added another player that gets in the way rather than having technical players in specific positions and being able to build up. I felt like it was a mistake from Arteta. And back to your question, to sort of finish my point on this, I think he's trying to do too much because he's trying to make sure that they get better than they are. And maybe he'll get there, because I think he's a good manager. But I
generally think that the best version of what we saw of them last year, one of the reasons why they were so good last year is because they had a very specific front 3. Martinelli on the left, Saka on the right, and then it almost didn't matter who was in the middle. Even Trossard could play the 9 with those two guys left and right.
Yeah, they could move around and shuffle in between.
Martinelli not being available so far this season has actually been a really big detriment because now the balance is all kind of fucked.
And Havertz just gets in the way because he's fucking useless.
And Havertz gets in the way. And they did sign a guy that I thought was going to be really, really good for their system in Julian Timber, and he's gone for the season.
He's been injured. Yeah, that's a big miss for them for sure.
So
and I think Odegaard in this game in particular needed to be better. I think if you were going to compare, because this was talk before the game, was Maddison or Odegaard, who would you take? Everybody said Odegaard for good reason because he was incredible last season. I would not discount him for that. But form-wise right now, Maddison is the better player and showed it in the game. 2 assists and was incredible.
The only thing I think that they have over Maddison, or he has over Maddison, that I think is not to be overlooked is that his longevity, I think, is better than Maddison's is for a season. I think Odegaard is just a machine. He is technical. He
was nowhere to be found in this game.
I don't think anybody knows the answer to this question because Maddison's never played at a top team for a sustained period. He's a Leicester guy who looked really good at Leicester,
and he still couldn't.
And it went up and down. But it was Leicester. Like he can
true.
have moments where he doesn't have to carry the game at Spurs,
or moments where he makes stupid errors, like
stupid errors, and he can get coverage.
Away and it's a different
can have games where he just needs to be good for 5 or 10 minutes and make an impact on the game. Whereas Leicester is like you just really can't get lost like that because then the team.
I don't think he can do that at Spurs. I think you're missing something here because I think his value at Tottenham right now, if Maddison gets injured, we finish 10th. If he stays fit the entire season, we finish 4th. He matters as much as Harry Kane did to an extent when it comes to playmaking. We lose that transition, and it's massive. It's absolutely massive. If we don't have that, if we don't manage that depth, or Lo Celso gets fit enough to play well enough,
right,
we won't finish in a potential top 4 or 5 position. We'll finish in a 6th or 7th position. Because
again, back to Arsenal. It does feel like for some reason. Could be injuries, could be people batting in. As of right now, they're not playing what I think we got used to seeing them play for 95% of last season.
Yeah.
Brian's right, though. This is maybe closer to like that 5% towards the end of the season where things just went. And maybe it's just like they ran their race and maybe they don't have it in them anymore to continue to dig deep. It's a terrible, terrible task to try to compete with Man City for not just one whole season, but 2 or 3. That's got to be mentally exhausting, man.
Brutal. The only team that's been able to do it is Liverpool, and I still think they're the only team that's gonna. That's my position.
But even Liverpool, wheels fell off.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Like they got.
I agree. I think they're the only team that has a coach that is capable of competing with Pep.
He is the only coach that can compete with Pep.
Yeah,
currently.
Not season after season. Even he will
when
have
he's able to
like he's 2 out of 3.
Last season, like he just needs like give me a season to get my shit together and I'll come back.
Let me rework it.
100%.
Yeah,
we'll go.
I mean, if he can, we'll see. Brighton continue to look fucking really good. Really good.
So good. Great.
Their wheels have to fall off some more time, right? Like they can't keep this going. There's no possible way they have the squad depth for this.
Who, Brighton?
Right? Brighton.
They have the coaching for this. This is the thing.
But
I think
you can have a great coach and just not have the depth for it.
You can have a great coach that manages the depth, and he's doing that. They sell their best player every season and still get
they won this game 3-1, and I consider this lineup they put out a rotational lineup.
Yeah, wasn't even
Thomas scored 2 goals and he didn't start. He came on at half.
That's incredible.
Like they're already kind of starting to do workload management
stuff.
The
best
stuff that you
run
need to do.
Team outside of the rich clubs, because rich clubs have the money to do it. The best run team in the world in football right now when it comes to recruitment.
100%.
Consistently turning it over and consistently competing, and their manager is fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
the football they play is so nice to watch. It's incredible.
It says a lot that despite everything we just said, if they finish in the top 8, that's a really good season for them. Like that's kind of a fucked up thing.
It's just super weird. Yeah. But I can see them finishing.
They are pocketing money right now. Like I'm very interested to see what they do in the next 3 or 4 years with all the money they've literally just stolen from Chelsea. So it's like really interesting to see.
I don't think you're going to see it,
What's
JP.
the long term?
I don't think you're going to see it.
Replacing
You just think they're pocketing this money to
No, I think it goes into academy. I think it goes into local construction. I think it goes into stadium
100
repair.
million. You can't put 100 million into
JP,
an
they're
academy.
They're a
really
Premier
good
League
owners.
team. They need to spend
good
money to
owners.
stay in the Premier League. It's not necessarily going to be a
100%.
big
I don't
flashy
think they
signing here
spend.
and there. They just
They
spread
get
it out.
they get something that most clubs don't. Like if you look at what Bowley's doing, you look at what other leaders of teams are doing. Brighton get why football is important to the community. They know how to bring that to the community, but they also know how to make themselves really functional financially and on the pitch. They just do everything right. It's annoying.
I'm not saying they're going to go below the money on one big player. They're going to do this or that, but it's like, okay, like on average, because I've actually researched this, an average academy only costs between 300 to about 750,000 to run per season. So like,
it's not
what are they also going to be spending?
I think that's an average club academy, not an average Premier League.
It's also not their academy.
No, that was average Premier League.
It's not their academy.
It's 3 years old.
JP, it's the recruitment that's doing it, not their academy. Now it's part of it, of course, because they go hand in hand. But the recruitment is the thing that is making them heads above anybody else. I forget the fella's name who runs recruitment at Brighton, but that guy.
Well, they replaced him. He went to Liverpool.
The guy who's there now, who's been there for the last 2 seasons.
Okay.
Unreal. I forget his name, but this guy is getting every decision right.
Well,
bringing in Caicedo, bringing in this guy, bringing in Sell.
I think we all know that, Brian. Our point isn't who's responsible for the success. Our point is where would they put the money?
Where is this money going to go?
And I'm saying a club like this probably does put it in things like the academy. And it costs a certain amount to run it, but like you can very much expect to have a very much improved academy infrastructure, fields, training, just shit like Brighton wouldn't have been able to afford that, but now they can, and that's sustained success, and that's the kind of stuff that will keep this club going.
They also got really lucky that Chelsea are so poorly run and won it.
That's also very true.
They pulled their
transitioning very nicely, I think, into Chelsea losing to the weighted down by their jerseys Aston Villa, despite the weight of the jerseys.
Can we get that photo up? I know you saw it.
It's still won. No,
I know you saw the photo.
JP. If
you don't have a guy who looks soaked now.
It's soaked. Here's the thing. Like, I know.
No. Before we talk about this, I want to talk about this. Our website has been inundated with Chelsea fans outraged by your video that you put out.
Yeah.
In your reaction.
Inundated.
Like,
thank you for that. If you,
it was pretty great.
A 9-minute video, 7 minutes of it are you calling out how much you hate Chelsea. Like, I'm not checking our socials anymore because I just know it's going to be somebody fucking like from Chelsea like attacking me.
Was there a question?
Why do you hate Chelsea so much?
I didn't hate Chelsea before.
Where did Chelsea hurt you?
Like, why did Chelsea hurt you so much, JP?
Chelsea is
where did they touch you?
Like, they're a worse version of Man City, with Man City's cheating back from the early 2010s. Nice, Brian. And
Canada, baby.
It's just like everyone's like, oh, they're not breaking the rules.
Why doesn't it happen more, Brian?
I don't believe it.
What?
It's like the first time I've seen Brian smoke on.
I know. I've never seen this. Like, I didn't even know.
It just feels right, though.
I feel like something happened to Brian. Well, who hurt you this week, Brian?
I'm just smoking a bit of pot. Nice.
You're not in California.
JP,
I'm in Canada.
You got to know you didn't look that good this game. And if Chelsea could score a goal, you're not winning this game.
We were an 80% out of 100. Our goalkeeper looked amazing. Emi Martinez looked great. Freaking Konza looked good. We played 80% out of 100. The red card changed the game, and I'm not arguing it didn't. But
that's not wrong.
Chelsea, like, they didn't play great either. Like, their midfield, their 250 million pound midfield did not outplay Villa's 15 million pound midfield. It was just long balls over the top. They chased them down. They had chances. But in the end, I thought the play was pretty even. Like, people are going to argue this or that, but I just looked at the there's that weird graphic where it's like it bars up and down depending on who looks like they're going to score closer. And it was pretty even in the first half until the red card, in which it starts to play in Villa's favor continuously and over the top. Villa got the goal, sloppy goal, whatever. It was flip a coin. It could have gone either way. I wasn't huge for the Villa win, but I'll take it.
How are you feeling?
I don't think there's a lot to say about Aston Villa in this game. I think really the story
wasn't.
is Chelsea
Are just so bad.
And what the fuck, man? So Poch is already under pressure. There's these stories that are coming out where he's talking about he's okay with the ownership coming into the dressing room before and after games.
He has to say it, Paul.
I know he has to say it, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, blink twice if you want the fucking guy to like you know what I mean? Like, is he sending secret codes out to the audience? Just like, obviously you're like, there's a guy with a gun off camera telling you what to say, because like nobody's going to be cool with that shit.
No, it's a really odd one. Of course, I have an affinity for Poch and what he did for Spurs, but I also think like, go fuck yourself for going to Chelsea. You deserve it, especially in the state that they're in, because they are in a state, and no manager's going to get them out of that state. It's going to be from the ownership, and the ownership are incompetent. So I made a comment on this channel probably about 5 or 6 years ago, because I just wishful thinking that Chelsea were the next Leeds. I think there's that potential in this scenario that they could go down if they really continue to fuck things up. Having said that, and this goes back to Paul's point about injuries, and I do recognize that there is a ton of injuries in this team, but still, those players that are coming back, they've never played together. They didn't have a preseason. They were all injured. So you're taking a bunch of 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, trying to get them to play a style of football. Pochettino is a good manager with young players. He can get them to be better. If you don't know who the fuck you're supposed to play, because none of them have been fit, what do you do with that? And you only have 38 games. Like, what, we're 6 games in. I know that seems like not a lot, but consider how long it takes to transition into being good. It isn't next game good.
It's 2 seasons. It's a season.
Yeah.
They could go down. And now the only reason they won't go down,
they'll spend.
No, I don't even think it's spending. I think the only reason they won't go down is because there's other teams that are worse than them. I think that's the reality. I think you got Luton, you got possibly Sheffield in there. There's other teams, Everton.
They are a badly crafted top 4 team. They're not a badly made.
They'll finish where they finished last season, around 12, 13 place. They're not going to finish better than that. There's all the teams that we can talk about are better than them.
But I'm going to repeat myself. They are a badly built top 4 team, which is the standard. They're not a bad Premier League team, so they're not going to be in the relegation area. The shitty they're going to have is they're going to finish embarrassingly.
They have won 5 games in total this year.
Yeah, no, it's a terrible start.
One team who's won less, and it's Everton. It's relegation form.
There's no person in the planet will put money on this continuing all season this badly. They will look really bad against Liverpool. They will look really bad against
Have you seen the run
Newcastle? But they're not going to look really bad against any of the top, like the real bottom draggers of this season, like the real Premier League relegation fodder. Will continue that form the entire season. These guys will at least conveniently win here and there. They're not that bad.
They've won 1 game, and it was against Luton, arguably the worst team that's
But like, again, just look at who they have. Like they're going to figure it out. They will be out of the race for maybe top 6 pretty soon, pretty quickly, because you can lose out of that race pretty fast.
Right.
But they're not going to be.
Here's the question: are they going to give Poch long enough? Because Chelsea is not a team, and it's never been a team that's going to give a coach long enough to get
different ownership.
If they're not around the top 8 by Christmas, I think Bowley pulls the trigger, and then they're fucking starting over.
I don't think anybody knows what Bowley's going to do, because nobody knows Bowley.
I don't think so. I honestly,
he's not their mad Russian.
They've already done that a couple of times, and I think that Pochettino is smart enough and well articulated enough to explain to them what needs to happen. It will keep them up. And I agree with you, Paul. I'm not saying they'll get relegated, but they're going to be in the conversation, even though it's probably a little bit hyperbolic. They're still going to be like, oh, Chelsea, they've lost so many games. They're in that conversation, which is sort of, what I'm getting at. I recognize it's not likely because there's other teams that are worse, but they're in a shambles at the moment. This is a scenario similar to Leeds, where the ownership thinks they're supposed to do something, spend way more money than they should, inaccurately to how they should spend it when the players they need to get, and having any kind of semblance of what the football they're supposed to be playing. That's where they are, and they're at 15th place, and they've won 1 game this calendar year.
Their home record is piss poor. They're so bad.
There's a lot of things that have changed for Chelsea, like their identity that has changed since Bowley has taken over. And the problem that I see with them is that they've sold all the players who used to have connection with fans to bring in all these hype young players, and it's going to take a long time. And I just don't think the fans are in it. I don't think the fans have the connection with this team. I don't think the fans have the connection with this owner. And if it turns bad, it could get worse for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying it will. I'm saying it could. Like, I could see this.
That's where I'm at, JP.
They win this weekend.
We'll get there in a minute.
They played 6 games.
Well, let's move on to the last 2 games, and then we can get on to the couple.
Liverpool looking fucking stupid. They're back to being really good again.
Yep.
Mike,
I honestly, I predicted it when we did our predictions. Not even just because it's literally what happened at the end of last season. From January until May of last season, they were the second best team comfortably. They were really good. They were better than Arsenal. They were right there in City.
I underwrote them. I think they look great.
I think they'll probably beat Spurs at home this weekend, which kills me, but we'll get to that. But I think they're that good that I'm nervous about. More nervous about playing them.
Oh, I would be.
Than I am about playing Arsenal.
They do look really good.
I think it's a harder game.
I think there's a weird. I'm probably wrong about this, but somebody out there can tell me if I'm wrong or not. It does feel like the last dance scenario for this particular group of players because Mo Salah, their talisman player, I don't see him being there next year.
I don't either.
I think you take this very good, very accomplished Liverpool team, you take Mo Salah off this team, I think you have a dramatically different team.
It's similar to Kane leaving, I think, unless you get the right adjustment to it.
I think it's probably similar. I just think it's less manageable because I just think he means that much to this team.
I think it's exactly the same for that reason.
Because you guys have been able to manage the loss of Kane so well, I don't want to say yes because it makes it sound like, they'll be fine because you guys have been fine.
No, I think we got lucky with the manager in that scenario.
Right. That's the only reason why I'm leaning against that comparison because I want to sway into I think they'll have a really hard time. I can't use Harry Kane because that actually hasn't been the case for Spurs. They've been okay.
Yeah.
So any other team that loses a talisman outside of Harry Kane.
No, any team loses a talisman goes through that, and I think they're going to struggle with that.
So my general sense is I even as a Man United fan, I would rather see this last dance play out like a fucking real head-to-head toe, like the best version of Klopp's rock and roll style Liverpool, led by Mo Salah, against Pep and his Man City team. I have no problem going like this is the last time we see this shit. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy it.
To add to that, Paul,
I'm gonna forget that I hate Liverpool. I'm just gonna be like, I don't know how much longer we're gonna see this shit. I appreciate it, so let's appreciate it.
If we're looking at teams with a coach who could do it, it's Liverpool. Klopp can beat City. If he gets it all working, like he has the ability as a coach to do that. He's the only coach in the Premier League.
Can he?
Like, I'm not saying he will, but he's the only one who can because he's done it.
Yeah, he could.
Exactly. Could. I'm not saying he's gonna.
Goodness gracious!
One manager and one team that's going to beat City or at least properly push them. It's Liverpool, not Arsenal.
When it comes to anything to stop them from winning 4 in a row.
Yeah, but I think they will. Sadly,
just one of those days games. 8-0. Newcastle beat the shit out of Sheffield United. Like
8 different scores, 8 different scores,
8 different scores, and 3 assists for Trippier.
Trippier doing his thing.
Yeah. Man, fantasy football.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those fucking days. Like not a great Sheffield United. Didn't go right for them. Everything went right for Newcastle.
Every shot.
Usually, you see these score lines at the 7-0, 6, 8
it's
is
a
like.
Funny one though. It's a funny one though. And sorry to bring it back to Spurs, but Sheffield made Spurs struggle heavily, like up until the 98th minute to score because of how organized they were defensively. They didn't
look organized at all.
It was a totally different team. That's the only reason I brought there because I'm like, what the hell is this Sheffield team doing? They Newcastle just cut him. It was ridiculous.
It was incredible.
I think people don't talk about this, but like when everything is going right for your opponent, it's like being in the ring with a boxer. You can't find your feet.
water.
You're just fucking playing
over.
like
Taking
this.
shots. You're just taking shots.
It can
From
go
the start.
south so fucking fast and so
They
fucking badly.
they literally sat around their 18 and they still gave up goals.
yeah.
Because they sat and they were so like out
There
of
was,
breath
there was
because they
super
could
low
not
block,
do
and they
it.
it didn't matter. Like the ball bounced off their knee wrong. It was just
Question for you guys: do you think this is a sort of a flash in the pan for Newcastle because
No.
of this?
They beat us 5-0.
Let me finish. Is this Newcastle being Newcastle again from last season? Are they like, okay, we're fine, we're back, we're going to be doing this, or is this a flash in the pan in that it happened, but it doesn't? They're still going to struggle against different teams, and they might still finish 7th or 8th. Like, what do you guys
Personally, I don't think you can learn that much from one game when the opponent clearly quit and was
I agree.
just,
I agree.
just
I'm
had
just
a
checking if
total
some
fucking
people-
terrible day.
Some people think
If-
that.
I don't love if this was they beat Man City 8-0. Yeah, let's fucking talk about it. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy.
Gonna
But
win the
this
league.
is a promoted team due to the Premier League, just got
Right.
smashed in the mouth by a really good Newcastle. I don't think this makes Newcastle better than I thought they were because of it.
I agree, but the only
I'm
reason
the
I asked that-
opposite, guys.
the
I'm
only
not
reason I
arguing,
asked
guys.
is maybe JP is going to confirm that there's a bunch of people who think it's a thing. So go on, JP.
As a team that got slaughtered by Newcastle, they are strong, they are good, they are well drilled, and their record right now does not reflect who they are because they've played some hard teams. They played Man City. I think they
Had a
played
difficult start.
ours.
I agree.
They had a rough little start there, and even Villa was
Who
not.
did you
an
think they
easy
were,
start.
though, JP? I guess this is the
I
question.
think they
Brian and I
a
are saying
third
we're
through
not different
sixth place
opinions of
team.
them.
I am
Yeah.
a 3rd through 6th place team, 100%.
Really?
I think they could push for 3rd or 4th. 100%
I think they'll finish
easily.
like 5th or 6th probably because it's
Uh,
because of Champions League.
I think they're
because of
fine.
Europe.
They brought in a lot. I think they're going to prioritize the Premier League. I think they're going to get out of the group stages of the
They're
Champions
not.
League. They'll
They're
get
gonna
eliminated,
prioritize-
and
they're
I think they're going to
prioritize
be.
Champions League 100%.
Oh, I don't think so.
First time
I
they've been
think
there in like I don't know how long, Paul.
They just have to solidify Champions League for one more year. They go one more year in the
but they're
summer
not
for
going to
depth,
take
and
that. They're in it.
they're
They're in
they're-
it. They're going to
they're-
try.
They're built for a good
And
run in
it's
the
gonna-
Champions
it's
League
gonna
too.
hurt
They
them.
are. I
Yeah.
also think they are getting every grain of salt when it comes to luck right now. They are healthy. They are rotating well. They are doing wonders. I think they are the real deal.
Again,
For EPL.
I guess the question is, Brian and
Fourth
I
spot. Fourth
haven't
place.
changed our opinion of them because they beat a team 8-0. We may
Yeah.
have already had a decent opinion.
I'm
of
not
them,
changing my mind. I just think I rate them higher than you guys do.
and that's fine.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think we at the start of the season maybe had differentials about this, but I think Brian and I are like-minded in that they didn't invest so much that they could handle the extra workload of European football
get that.
in their schedule.
I think
I
they're
don't
gonna
agree,
hurt
but I
from that
get it.
a little bit. I think they will.
And a
no,
little road trip to Sheffield United is not.
to be fair,
the
they
same
had
as-
Europe.
All of us have been wrong about our early predictions too.
To be
Like,
fair, they had
there's
Europe.
things
They
changing.
had Europe this week before
no.
this game, and still went on to win.
Oh, I'm
8-0.
perfect.
So,
I'm Paul Forrest.
so maybe,
James Carter's
that
doing great.
flawed.
I was wrong about Ange Pasta Lukaku.
No, it's not Pasta Lukaku. It's Pasta Koglu.
It's Americans pronouncing names.
Ange Postecoglou, I got
Good.
wrong, and I will admit it. I did not think he would get them playing so well, and he has.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
It's so early.
Madison gets injured. Song gets injured. We'll talk again.
You know what I mean? It's just so early.
I
Because then
think
the thing with
I think
Tottenham,
the most obvious. Sorry, Paul. Just quickly, the most obvious response to what JP just said: when your best players get injured, you'll struggle. Yes,
Yes.
every team will
That's
go
true.
through that. Period. Like your
Unless you're
best
Chelsea
players
with
will get
50
injured,
players.
you will struggle.
the potential for Spurs or any team that has a new manager to the league to get caught is likely going to happen because of game tape. Nobody knows how they're going to line up, how they're going to set up, what style of play they're going to implement until they start playing it. The more they play, the more other coaches can analyze and find counter tactics and strategies. And that's just how it is. That's how sometimes managers take a minute to get caught out because nobody knows what to do. And then all of a sudden Newcastle do it to them. And then the model of this is how you beat this team, this is how you beat this coach's setup becomes clear. So
We'll see what happens.
Spurs have
next
got
year
this
then,
sweet
for sure.
spot where they're implementing what they want to do.
Totally.
They're playing a certain style. They did it
Are
really
you giving
early.
me hope, Paul? I like it. You're giving me hope. I
But
agree. All right.
Can they keep it up when other managers start catching on with what they've been doing and start trying things to catch it up? Like that's going to be the real challenge. But that's why managers get paid the big bucks, and that's the real challenge of the Premier League, right?
Let's go
You
on to
don't
the
manage in a
let's
vacuum.
look at these.
This weekend, Aston Villa, Brighton. This is going to be a big game.
I like
This is a big game. We are 9 wins. We are undefeated in the last 9 or 10 at home. So and we've beaten Brighton, I think, the last 2 times in a row. So this could be a fun game.
I think Brighton are due. I'm putting money on Brighton to beat Aston
this
Villa.
is like arguably game of the week if Spurs weren't playing Liverpool.
I would agree, except how our recent form has been, where we win 2, we lose 1. We win 2, we lose 1, and we just lost. No, we just lost.
You should win. Oh, so you should win. You're saying
I disagree a little bit because there's a certain game. We'll talk about it when we get there. A certain team is playing a bogey team that I always am mindful when they play each other, and it's Wolves hosting Man City. Bogey. Bournemouth are going to get beat by Aston Villa.
This has got 2-2 written all over it. I think teams will score. Both teams will have the ability to score goals against each other. Brighton's defense is probably the one thing that they have issues with, despite them still being, winning and doing.
I totally agree that Brighton can
score on Brighton, and Villa have enough.
I am not solidified in my Villa win here. It is a very soft stand.
Draw is like an obvious scoreline.
Oh God, I would take that in a heartbeat.
And it's also the neutral wood as well. It's entertaining.
But we just don't draw games, so I'm really
I like Brighton here. I like them.
That's fine.
I think Bournemouth are going to lose to Arsenal. I think we could all probably agree.
Yeah, I think that's going to be more difficult game.
I think it's going to be like a 2-1. Like it'll be closer than we think. But
I think if Rice plays, they'll win it comfortably. If he's fit, if he's fit, they'll win it comfortably. If he's injured, I think it's a different game.
Everton with a chance to get some form.
First half and second half when Arsenal don't.
Yeah, they might actually be able to get a win again.
Everton with a chance to get some form, hosting Luton. If Everton can win this game, technically it's 3 games that they win because they won today in the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, bad game for us. But Everton finally getting a run of form.
Man United play Crystal Palace for the second time this week, which should be interesting. I think it's also the second time. Second time they're going to host Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace.
I feel like there's a result there for Palace. A result. I don't mean to win, but like a 1-1 maybe.
The thing for me is when teams play each other pretty quickly, like within 2 weeks of each other, the games get out of hand. Like those players are kind of like, all right, we're dealing with you again, and then they get a little bit more feisty. And I love those games. Battle, right? They want it.
Does Amrabat start in this game?
Yeah.
He's fit and good to go for it.
Yeah, they
your midfield is Amrabat.
So it's kind of fucked up right now. He started technically as a left back when he played against Crystal Palace. They just shifted him into the middle as an inverted left back.
Amrabat?
As a left back, which is weird, but we also kind of low on options for left back right now because Reguilon might be injured. So for a bunch of different reasons, I think he's going to start. I just don't know where he's going to start.
Okay.
But I do think he's going to be the guy running the midfield. And I think we're going to see if he and Bruno and Rashford can like work something out. But I think this will be relatively straightforward day for Man United. Certainly hope so, but also I mean, who can tell?
Yeah, who knows?
I'm
There's
surprised.
One upset a week.
Surprised by Connie would be here, and Connie would be like, "Yeah, we're gonna lose this game."
Yeah, but Connie forgets things. Like our home record's really good. If this was a road game, I'd be like, "Oh, we might be in fucking trouble because it's not at Old Trafford." But because
it's got banana skin written all over for me.
It's
gonna lose banana
skin. It could,
like a 1-1 draw. Like
I'm not taking a position. It's fine.
I feel like it's a 1-1 draw.
He's just not taking a position.
Yep.
No,
Newcastle
a home game. You can generally put money on Man United winning a game at home, even when they're doing badly. Their home record has always been really good. And that's since Ten Hag was in charge. Road games is where we get fucked. All road games. There is no such thing as a safe road game for this team. Newcastle, I think, are going to beat up on Burnley, but 5-0. Also, these are two styles of play that I want to see how they match up against each other, because the way Burnley played when they started actually playing their championship level, like
open football,
that style of like possession based and being patient and not rushing things. I do think that Newcastle,
it could make them.
It almost feels like a draw.
I would do like almost
it's at home for Newcastle. They're going to come back. I think the fans, that atmosphere at Newcastle right now is unreal.
I might do a 0-0 draw in this game.
I think Newcastle's going to wipe them. I think it's going to be 3 or 4-0.
West Ham may be chopping their lips a little bit because 8-0 losers Sheffield United come to West Ham for a game. West Ham have looked a lot better than they have before.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they look great. I'm not saying they're exciting. I'm not saying they're
very
good.
functional. They're not
They just look
they're
a
not
lot better.
Great team to watch, but they're functionally getting it done. It's annoying. You know what I mean? Like the header, what's his name? Bauman or whatever. The diving header he scored at the weekend. What a diving header! But they're not good otherwise. They have these moments where they score goals, and you're kind of going, "Oh yeah, West Ham look good in that moment," but they're kind of shit otherwise.
Bowen has got 4 goals, I think, already this season.
That heading goal was incredible. Like that's a goal that like people shouldn't score. Generally.
He's a dynamite player, and he's one of the guys that people should be talking about. Him and like even Madison. There is value to be found when you buy players from the championship.
Yeah,
Madison obviously was bought by Leicester and then was at Leicester for a few years before he went to Spurs, but he's still a championship player. Like he was discovered there. Bowen was the same thing.
Where he came through. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like there's something to the value of that. It's a separate conversation, obviously, but I really like Bowen.
Bowen gives that. I know what you're saying. I understand. He's that kind of.
I would be pretty comfortable putting money on Bowen scoring this game, even for those of you out there who like a bet.
Yeah, like a 2-0 West Ham probably.
Pretty dire situation at Wolves hosting Man City, but for some reason, I don't know why, Wolves traditionally give Man City a bit of a day.
It's the shape.
I don't care. Man City's going to do it. I think Man City's going to throttle them.
Okay. Well,
yeah, me too. I think
you're probably right.
I think it's like a 3 or 4-0 or 3 or 4. I think
probably right.
Wouldn't
it be nice if I was right?
It would be. I love when City lose, but I just don't.
I'm not talking about losing.
City needs to lose soon. City needs to lose soon. So
I'm not talking about losing, JP. I'm talking about a draw or like a 1-0.
Dropping points.
Not going to beat Man City. Don't be crazy. This is going to be the game of the week. This has to be the game of the week. This is already top 4 implications. This is Spurs hosting Liverpool. I love the timing of this game.
Oh yeah,
both teams on form. Somebody's gonna have to blink here.
This is gonna be a cracking game. This is gonna be better than the North London Derby, I think.
Such a wide open combination of styles of play. I'm even looking forward to seeing what they get up to in pressers. Both these managers are going to be funny as fucking hell. Like, it's just nothing wrong with this game. Like, I don't know who wins it. Like, it's actually so close that I can't really tell you who I think is the favorite.
Postecoglou is a Liverpool fan too, which is pretty funny. So there'll be
Mr. Pasta is going to be good.
There'll be jokes about that. I think that the key to this game is going to be obviously the midfield, which is
Bobby.
When teams want to press and when teams want to like counter and quickly like win the ball back and move forward, it's that type of football. Klopp's been doing it for 6-7 seasons.
He doesn't change it for no one.
It's and neither does Ange, right? So going into the game against Arsenal at the last weekend, he was asked, "Are you going to be pragmatic? Are you going to sit back? Are you going to try to manage this team that's going to come out?" And he's like, "No, fuck no. We're going to go and play our football. We're going to go and attack. We're going to make them really uncomfortable. We're going to scare them. That's our goal. We're always going to do that. Even if we make mistakes, we're going to do that." So that is essentially the same way Klopp has been doing Liverpool for years, right? I think the comparison between Klopp and Ange is closer than any other comparison between two managers currently in the Premier League. So I think the football, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be.
I think both teams score. I don't think
it's going to be messy. It's going to be like the best players are going to stand out. Even the best players are going to make mistakes. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, this is not going to be a goalless game. This is going to be.
You're going to say both the best players are going to stand out and make mistakes.
One team is going to beat the other team by a goal based on madness.
So someone's going to
be fun. If you're a neutral, like you guys are going to. This is going to be one of the best games of football.
Oh yeah. I'm going to plan my day around watching this one.
Yeah.
12:30 in Canada.
My only prediction.
Sunday? Is that Sunday or Saturday?
This is Saturday.
My only prediction is is that I'm going to be terrified, but I'm going to enjoy the shit out of it.
I may even make a point of watching this game with Brian Ireland.
Oh, that would be a good video for the pod.
I will go with you.
Go with the Zaz.
You can
Go
say
Give me the
with
keys
Zaz.
to your condo. I will watch it at your home.
Go with the Zaz.
No, it is this weekend. No, I'm
not going to watch it with fucking Azaz because he goes and he watches it with a bunch of Liverpool people who are all like having organized fun. And he's like one of the leaders of the organized fun. And I'm going to sit there like hating them all because they're all wearing stupid fucking jerseys that have stupid fucking Liverpool.
Paul, if I was in town, I would absolutely watch it with you. I do think just from a neutral perspective, you guys must be it's one of those games. I recognize the North London Derby has a thing and it was exciting and it was entertaining. This game is more entertaining. Spurs have the worst luck in this game. The penalties we've missed, the deflections, the penalties that were called, like all the shit. Like it's the most unlucky fixture if you're going to believe in luck, which I don't. But if you're going to, the things that have happened to Spurs against Liverpool, it's always ridiculous. We're always like, how did that happen? And of course, in the Champions League, it's sort of the pinnacle of that, where Sissoko gets the handball and it's 19 minutes in, and the game changes completely, and it's boring as fuck. Every time we play Liverpool, it's like that. But I think in this case, both teams with the management we have and the way we're playing, the football should be at the highest, most entertaining level you're going to watch a game. So win or lose, for me, I'm kind of going in expecting to lose because I've said this from the beginning of the season. I think Liverpool are the second best team in the league by far, and they were at the end of last season and are going continuously in this season. They are going to be really, really difficult to beat even at home. But our home support is going to be nuts, so it's going to be fun. Anyway,
but have you ever actually thought about getting on the Ange train? Choo choo,
choo choo.
Have you heard that?
Bobby K on the Ange train, buddy. It's just so entertaining, like to be part of a football club with a manager that isn't a miserable, shitty prick the entire time you're fucking supporting them. Even when we struggle or even when bad things happen, you love the guy anyway. It's just nice. That's what football should be. So thank you, Ange.
I like
what
my
man. What do you guys think?
What do you guys think?
Paul?
You know what? Well, okay. Liverpool don't have a good defense. They can't keep a clean sheet for shit. Like they're going to give you guys opportunities to score.
Sure. We're going to score.
So as an outcome, I can see it being a 3-2 for somebody.
Right.
I think Liverpool probably have the edge right now, just in terms of like the sheer stack of game winners that they have available for their team.
I'd agree with
my nightmare scenario, which I actually think is most plausible, is that VAR will play a role in the outcome of this game.
Oh, boy.
And that it's going to be another like soft pen
in the 95th minute
in some sort of position.
I think you're right, Paul. I think you're right. It's going to ruin it. But I think you're right. I think that something like that will happen.
But I think it's going to be early. I also think somebody scores within the first 10.
Because we always get fucked in this game. Not because there's conspiracy, just circumstances. We just get fucked.
Sometimes it's how that plays out, right?
So
that's going to be obviously the best game of Saturday, best game of the weekend. Sunday comes around, it's going to be a lot slower. Frankly, these are not the best games in the world to watch. Nottingham Forest, who I think are going to do okay this season. They seem to be doing all right. They're playing Brentford. I think that needs to be a recovery game. This has got draw written all over it.
Each of the
1-1. I honestly think Nottingham Forest is a little bit stronger right now than Brentford. I think they can, and at home, I think they can get the win.
Nottingham Forest.
I think Brentford will have a little bit of a response for how poor they were last weekend because it was one of their bad games, and they usually respond really well. When they have a bad game, the next game they play is really difficult to play against, and I think that will come into counter. So I do think we're looking at like 1-1 or 2-2 here.
They played today, and I think they put out a pretty strong squad against Liverpool. Brentford.
Oh, Brentford did, yeah.
And I've never seen, I think they lost 3-1. I've never seen so many goal line clearances in one game. I think there was like
from
5
Brentford?
or 6 from Brentford.
Okay, wow.
Like Liverpool could have won that game.
They were in it, though. They believed what they were doing.
No, I mean, like it could have been 8-1 final score. They literally
they are
on the goal line stopped
they were
5
there
goals.
to defend it, so their passion was there.
Sure.
to make
Sure, but that means they're also
build.
expelling a lot of energy, and they could not be there.
Not good for the weekend, is what you're saying. Not good.
Yeah.
Well, it was just more like something's
what I'm
not
saying.
right
Fair
there right
point,
now.
Paul.
Something
Fair
is
point,
broken. Something is broken. I
We
think
gotta
Nottingham Forest quietly are like one of the better top 12 teams in the league. I feel like they're going to be a comfortable.
They're sneaking
easy
in
bet.
there. Their manager is very good, and they've actually adjusted to all of the players they brought in last season and are
Yeah.
incorporated them well. And their system is working with those players
Yeah.
after
They're very they're
after
useful. They have-
preseason and a build up to the next
100%.
they're young and they're athletic and they have a lot of energy, and that seems to be
Yeah.
what's going to push them. So
Yeah.
I
And
don't
they
mind watching
didn't
those
get
games.
relegated, so they now can do the things that they
Yep.
plan to do.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
working.
And then Fulham hosting Chelsea in what should have been a straightforward game, but fuck, who knows,
Who
man? This is a
knows?
big game for Chelsea. This has got to be like
Oh,
it's not
man.
like must
London,
win.
And it's
London
away.
derby here. It's a London
It's
derby.
away.
And it's away, and they have a hard. I think they actually have a hard time at Fulham sometimes. Like
They do.
Honestly,
since Fulham got reintroduced into the Premier League, I don't think they've got a very good record against them.
No, they don't. This has got 0-0 written all over it, though, doesn't it?
Well, neither team can score, so yeah.
That's my point. 0-0
Yeah.
written all
Yeah,
over
yeah.
it. Chelsea's
That'd be
score goals.
huge. The
Fulham
fans would.
started show- It's either 0-0 or 1-0 from either one of the teams. You can now you cannot predict one of them. There's not goals in this game at all. It's going to be boring as fuck.
I feel like Chelsea win this in like a
I
hard
don't.
fought 1-0, maybe even a 2-0, but like a late consolation, like one of those ones where like the other team was pressing so much to get the tying goal that they allowed a second.
If they lose,
If they
shit,
lose,
man.
though,
shit hits the fan.
I mean,
we will have
sure-
Eric on the show next week
They're
defending his
already
club.
there, man. Shit has hit the fan already. It's splattering everywhere. It's
It
disgusting.
is. It's
It
glorious.
smells bad. It's liquid shit.
Yeah. But then if they win 3 games on the trot, if they win 3 games, all it takes is 3 games, and all of a sudden the narrative changes all across the league.
Such a
forever.
mess, man. It's such a mess.
And then worth noticing, it's not this weekend, but it is a double game week for fantasy football players out there. We already have a double game week. Luton hosts Burnley in what will be the second game for them this game week coming up. They're doing that because Luton weren't able to host Premier League games for the first week of the Premier League season.
Yeah, they didn't have the camera angles. They didn't have all the stuff.
Yep.
So,
No,
gear.
but they do now. So there you go.
yeah.
Burnley Luton.
We play Luton in after Liverpool. We play Luton next. I'm looking forward to that away day because I wish I could go to it because it'd be super fun to go to their ground where you're in the
Sure.
coldest.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah.
You're in a
But
cold.
also
That would
because
be
you know
awesome.
you're going to win 3-0.
Yeah, whatever. It's cool though. It'd be cool to do it. Like just to be there to go.
Burnley win, guys.
Yeah,
I don't know what Luton are.
I think I think in this
I don't
game,
think Luton knows what Luton are.
but
Yeah.
JP, this is a game against 2 championship teams. One of them was far better than the other.
Yeah, that's why I said Burnley win.
Burnley win like
Yeah.
comfortably.
Yeah, that's what I said.
3-0 probably.
Yeah.
Not in my opinion.
I think it's fair. Anyways,
All
that's
right.
the show, boys. Big
That's all
weekend
time.
coming up. To
We
be
did it.
honest, a really good Saturday, a kind of meh Sunday. Really
Yeah.
good Saturday afternoon for you guys in the Canadian. I don't want to say Canadian time zone, but you know what I mean. If you're watching Tottenham and Spurs play Liverpool and it's early enough to drink beer, good for
You're
you.
gonna have a good time. You're gonna have a good time.
Sit
Yeah,
back and relax.
Zaz, I wish you were here with me right now because just shout out. Hopefully, you watched it all the way to the end. Would have been fun to do a preview with you because we're gonna kick your ass, you little fucking scouser pricks. All right, we'll do that.
Do a separate show. Do a reaction video together.
Scouser pricks.
Yeah.
Fuck, I may have to go to that game actually. Shit.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a fun watch.
All right. Well, if I end up watching it with fucking Azaz and the Scousers, I'll fucking film it.
Thank you for watching, folks. Like and subscribe on the bits. And
Get after us, guys.
We don't
Love
see you
yous.
very often, but when we do, we love you anyways, despite it being a long time.
Like and comment and bye.
Bye.
This is the North End. This is the North End.